The 2026 FIFA World Cup was supposed to be football's greatest celebration, the biggest tournament ever staged. 48 nations, 3 countries, 104 matches, and an opening night that was meant to set the tone for everything that would follow. It did set a tone, just not the one anyone expected. Within hours of the very first kickoff, the internet was already on fire. Flags were getting booed inside the stadium. Red cards were flying in numbers that had never been seen in a World Cup opener. South Africa had been reduced to nine men. And somewhere in all of this chaos, a legitimate football match was being played. So what actually happened on opening night at FIFA World Cup 2026? Was it a disaster, a drama, or just the kind of football theater that reminds you why this tournament is unlike anything else on Earth? Let's go through it all, and let's start right at the beginning, before a single ball was kicked. The opening ceremony was designed to be a statement, held at the legendary Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, a venue so steeped in football history it has now hosted the opening match of 3 separate World Cups. The ceremony was built to impress. Shakira performed the official tournament anthem alongside Burna Boy. Andrea Bocelli sang, Mana played. Salma Hayek made a surprise appearance. By all accounts, it was spectacular. But it was one quiet moment during the ceremony that created the loudest noise. As part of the flag procession, a celebration in the style of the Olympic opening ceremony, with all 48 competing nations bringing their flags to the center circle, something happened when the U.S. flag was presented. The crowd booed. Not a whisper, not mild indifference. Reports from journalists inside the stadium, including a BBC correspondent on the ground, described a clear and audible shift in crowd noise the moment the U.S. flag appeared on the big screens. The same fans who were cheering every other nation fell into jeers, and then, almost immediately, as Mexico's own flag was shown, the stadium erupted back into applause. Now, let's be fair about this. The reports are not entirely uniform. At least one fan inside the stadium told media outlets that there were no specific boos for the U.S. flag, and that Argentina's flag actually drew the clearest hostile reaction, which, given the Mexico-Argentina football rivalry, is entirely believable. Social media, as it always does, amplified the moment in different directions. But the broader picture is real. At the FIFA Fan Festival in Toronto, another co-host city, footage captured spectators booing when U.S. host cities were shown on screen and cheering for Canada and Mexico. That wasn't ambiguous. And it raises a question worth sitting with. Why, at a tournament that the United States is co-hosting, is there this visible undercurrent of tension even on day one? Part of it is football history. The USA and Mexico have one of the most emotionally charged rivalries in North American football. The 2-0 scoreline, 2-0, became an iconic shorthand for American victories over Mexico in the 2000s, and those results have never sat comfortably in Mexican football culture. That history was present in the stadium the moment the U.S. flag appeared. But some of it goes beyond football. There are real concerns among fans about the hosting imbalance at this tournament. The United States is staging 78 of the 104 matches. Canada gets 10, Mexico gets 10. For many supporters in those countries and around the world, it can feel like the World Cup is being marketed as a shared event, while the majority of the action is concentrated in one place. Some fans have also expressed frustration over logistical complications for international visitors, including visa processing concerns. When you add all of that together, you get an atmosphere that was already carrying some tension before a single whistle was blown. Football never exists in a vacuum, and opening night proved that very clearly. But then, the match started, and everything got even chaotic. Mexico versus South Africa, a rematch of the 2010 World Cup opener, back when South Africa were the hosts, and a now legendary goal from Siphiwe Tshabalala launched the only World Cup on African soil. 16 years later, the roles were reversed. Mexico were the hosts, South Africa were the visitors. And Estadio Azteca, already buzzing with nearly 100,000 people, was ready to explode. The first half was relatively controlled. Mexico dominated possession on home soil as you'd expect. South Africa were compact and disciplined, trying to limit space and stay organized. For long stretches of the opening 45 minutes, it looked like a tight group stage opener between two evenly matched sides with something to prove. Raúl Jiménez, a player who had carried Mexico's attacking hopes for years and had somehow never scored at a World Cup despite playing in 3 of them, was leading the line. The emotion around his inclusion was palpable. The Azteca crowd was there for him as much as anything. Mexico scored first. The stadium erupted. For a brief, beautiful moment, everything was perfect. And then came the second half, and everything changed. In the 49th minute, South Africa's Spepilo Sithole was shown a straight red card after fouling Mexico's Brian Gutierrez on the edge of the box. Gutierrez had a clear goal-scoring opportunity. The decision, under the laws of the game, was correct. Sithole had to go. South Africa were down to 10 men. In that moment, you could feel the match shifting. A 10-man team facing a World Cup host nation with a packed stadium behind them. The result felt inevitable. But South Africa kept going. They reorganized, they stayed in the game, and for a while, they made Mexico work for every inch. Then came the 76th minute. Raúl Jiménez headed home from close range to make it 2-0, his first goal at a World Cup. 3 tournaments, finally. The whole stadium was on its feet. Jiménez, visibly emotional, celebrated in front of the Azteca faithful. It was one of those genuinely moving football moments. But the match wasn't done with its drama. In the 84th minute, Themba Zwane, a veteran South African midfielder and one of Bafana Bafana's most experienced players, caught Mexico's Roberto Alvarado in the face with his hand as the two moved for the ball. The referee didn't immediately react. VAR reviewed it, and then came the red card. Second red card for South Africa. They were down to 9 men. 9 in a World Cup opener. The last time a team had received 2 red cards in a single World Cup match was back in 2006, when both the Netherlands and Portugal were shown 2 cards each in that infamous Battle of Nuremberg. South Africa had equaled that on opening night. And then, in stoppage time, at 90+2, Mexico's own Cesar Montes was shown a straight red card. A foul on Kuliso Mudau just outside the box, denying a goal-scoring opportunity. VAR confirmed it. 3 red cards, in a single match, in a World Cup opener. It had never happened before in tournament history, not once. Not in any of the previous 22 editions of the World Cup had the opening match seen 3 dismissals. There were debates immediately about whether all 3 decisions were correct. The ESPN VAR review after the match judged the Sithole red card as clearly the right call. The Zwane dismissal, some analysts felt, was harsh, contact with a face that looked more accidental than deliberate. The Montes red card divided opinion too, with some commentators feeling it was not a clear and obvious goal-scoring opportunity under the strictest reading of the rule. But the decisions were made. The cards were shown. South Africa finished the match with 9 players. Mexico won 2-0. And the opening night of the 2026 World Cup had written itself into football history for reasons nobody had predicted. Now, zoom out for a moment, because what happened on June 11th is actually worth understanding in a wider context. Red cards in World Cup openers are extraordinarily rare. The history of opening match dismissals is almost empty. Teams approach the first game of a tournament with maximum caution, aware that a suspension before the group stage is even halfway done could be catastrophic. The fact that this match produced 3 means something. Some of it was refereeing. Brazilian official Wilton Pereira Sampaio had a busy night. Analysts across multiple outlets noted that at least one of the decisions could have gone differently with a more measured interpretation. VAR, which was introduced to reduce controversy, found itself at the center of it. But some of it was also pressure. South Africa were a team under enormous tension.
They had waited 16 years to return to a World Cup. The last time was on their own soil in 2010. The weight of that occasion was visible. Their discipline under that pressure, particularly in the second half, was not what their coach Hugo Broos would have wanted. And for Mexico, the drama of their first win in a World Cup opening match, they had played in 7 previous openers and won none of them, was real. El Tri, with a full Azteca behind them, finally delivered. But the manner of the win was messy, tempestuous, and exhausting for everyone involved.
Both teams now carry suspension concerns into their next games on June 18th. South Africa, already eliminated from the match with 9 men, must prepare for Czechia in Atlanta without Sithole and Zwane. Mexico face South Korea without Montez. 3 red cards, 3 suspensions from 1 match, from 1 night. The second Group A match of the evening, South Korea versus Czechia in Guadalajara, was a far calmer affair by comparison. South Korea won 2-1. Ladislav Krejci gave Czechia a surprising lead with a header in the 58th minute, but South Korea came back through Hwang In-bom, and the Red Devils ultimately held on for a deserved win. For South Africa and Czechia, that result has immediate implications. Both teams now sit on 0 points. Their head-to-head match in Atlanta on June 18th is effectively already a must-win situation. Czechia need to beat South Africa, and South Africa need to beat Czechia to keep their knockout round hopes alive. A team that already finished their opening night with 9 players will walk into that match knowing that every remaining minute of this World Cup matters. For fans watching around the world, opening day delivered something unexpected: drama. Real, unscripted, unmissable drama. The ceremony was stunning. The flag moment sparked a conversation that won't go away quickly, and the match itself, for all its red card chaos, produced genuine football stories. A legendary stadium packed to its limits, a veteran striker finally scoring his first World Cup goal, a visiting nation, outnumbered and exhausted, refusing to completely capitulate even with 9 men on the field. Bafana, despite the result, showed character. South Africa have built something under Hugo Broos since 2021. They pressed higher than expected in the opening exchanges. They created moments, and even down to 9, they attempted that late counter that resulted in Montez's dismissal. They were still trying. That won't fix the scoreline, but it tells you something about a team that took 16 years to get back to this stage. For Mexico, the night was everything the home crowd wanted, even if the path to that 2-0 win was bumpier than anyone had planned. And for football fans everywhere, the 2026 World Cup announced itself in the most emphatic way possible, not with a perfectly polished ceremony in a clean, tidy game, but with flags, and boos, with red cards and VAR, with history-making statistics, with Shakira, and with tears in Raúl Jiménez's eyes. So, where does this leave us as the tournament takes its next breath? Day 2 is already here. Today, on June 12th, the USA face Paraguay in Los Angeles, their first match of a World Cup they co-host. After the flag incident in Mexico City, every camera in that stadium will be watching the crowd, how American fans are received, how the atmosphere builds, whether the undercurrent of tension carries into the US matches. Canada kicked things off today as well, facing Bosnia and Herzegovina in Toronto. The opening day crowd at BMO Field will be a very different atmosphere, warmer, arguably less complicated. And across the 48-team tournament, 99 more matches follow. The group stage alone will throw up results nobody expected. Favorites will stumble, underdogs will shock, and somewhere in all of it, another chapter of World Cup history will be written. The opening night gave us the first red cards, the first controversies, the first discussions, the first moments that people will talk about for years. That's what the World Cup does, every time, without fail. The question now is where it all goes from here. South Africa need to rediscover their discipline. Czechia need their first points. Mexico need to carry their momentum without 3 of their defensive figures, and the United States, stepping onto the stage today, need to prove that this tournament is bigger than any noise surrounding it. What did you make of opening night? Was the refereeing too harsh? Should any of those red cards have stayed in the pocket?
And do you think South Africa can still make it out of Group A after everything that happened on June 11th?